Hi, and welcome to Zoe Talks. This is a show where we just discuss all things mental health. We focus on adolescents, the mental health industry, and the education industry. This is also the show where we wanted to talk about all things difficult. What are some of the burning questions on your mind that you'd like to talk about? I'm Christina. I'm from Zoala. We're a generative AI tech startup company.
And I'm Julina. I'm from wwyd, a youth counselling center.
And here with us today, a very esteemed special guest. Thank you, Yen-Lu, for your time today. Yen-Lu Chow is the co-founder of Over the Rainbow, but he also has many hats and plays many roles in other organizations. I'll let Yen-Lu share a bit more about that.
Thank you, Christina and Joanna. Happy to be here today. I always love talking about mental health, mental wellness. Very passionate about youth. Actually passionate about a lot of things. Mental wellness, human well-being, entrepreneurship. But let me tell you a bit about Over the Rainbow. So this is where our journey began in mental wellness. Yeah, and this is a story that a lot of people know about already. It's on. I've given TEDx and lots of interviews. But on October 22nd, 2009, we lost our son and only child to suicide. He was 26 years old. He was suffering from manic depression, and he lost the battle to the illness. It was, as you can imagine, if you're a parent or even if you're not, it was a parent's worst nightmare and the darkest time of our life. His suicide was also a wake-up call for us as parents, but I think for the society as a whole. Our son was a very caring and compassionate person, very handsome young lad, let me tell you. He once told us, wouldn't it be nice if we can make a difference in someone's life? This was while he was ill. He was down with the illness. That's what he said. Therefore, his life, his passing, his legacy became the inspiration and the genesis of our family foundation, the Whole Tree Foundation, and Over the Rainbow Youth Mental Wellness Initiative. That's how we got started in the whole mental wellness space. This is like, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago already. Last year, we celebrated our 10-year anniversary. This year, we have our 11th year celebration coming up. We actually was a very humble beginning. I love to tell this story. So you better stop me when if I go off track, okay?
No, please share.
We started from a very humble beginning, as you can imagine. Yeah, we started with just 2 founders, my wife and I, and a few family friends as volunteers. We had a website, we had a Facebook page, we had a brochure. Then we had our first outreach, our first event, first workshop. Slowly, momentum built, and soon gathered steam. One thing led to another. OTR has since grown into a recognized presence, a recognized force, in the mental health space here in Singapore. We've been a pioneer. Since launching in October 2012, we've been a pioneer and trailblazer in the space of youth mental wellness, innovating and pushing the mental health envelope with with outreach, community initiative, media project, programs, workshop, festivals, volunteer training, outreach, peer support systems, online support platform, magazines, and other campaigns. Yeah, these initiatives and activities collectively has touched nearly 1 million lives through both online and offline touch points and transformed many others.
Yes.
So that's a bit of a brief history of OTR. I must admit, it hasn't been easy. It's been a long and winding road. You can imagine 11 years. But this passion, to want to help other parents and youth, and really it's been the spark of the fire that keeps us going, that keeps me going.
Yes. And if I may say,
and it's still going strong. It's still going strong to this day. Can you imagine?
Yes. And if I may say, I'm sure your son is also very proud of you too. But yeah, that is beautiful, and thank you for sharing, because I can imagine that can be very hard to share, but you guys turned such dark times into something beautiful and a great memory of your son as well. So thank you for sharing that.
And
Thank
also
you.
when you were when you were sharing, I can't even imagine the experience that you and your wife had gone through. So for many of us, you know, even if we're not a parent ourselves, we have a close friend, a peer, a family member who maybe are struggling with mental health problems. Could you share a little bit about you and your wife's journey of healing, and what sort of helped you kind of move forward?
Yeah. I also share this in my TEDx talk, because people are always interested. How did you get out of this? How did you able to heal? Yeah. And again, going back to that day, 14 years ago, almost 14 years ago already. Yeah. The early days after, we had to actually, he passed away in Australia. He was studying in Australia. He was studying at Perth, in what's the school? Murdoch University. It was final year of study. So we actually had to. Okay, so this is the story. So it was that evening, October 22nd, the fateful evening when we got a call, October 22nd, 2009. We got a call. This was at 10:30 at night on the landline at home. So who would call us at landline at 10:30 in the evening? Pick up the phone. On the other end of the phone he was the director of international student relationship. And he broke to us that they had found our son's body in a parent's suicide. The police had found the body. So you can just imagine what was going through our mind. Of course, the first thing was denial. So okay, so we had to take take the first flight out that night to Perth. Yeah, it was I remember it was a 1:30 red-eye flight. We took that very flight out, grab whatever we can. We just put in took whatever we can with us, and just got on that flight. And of course, it was like the longest trip you can imagine. And we were just thinking, wondering, it was denial number thing, right? I mean, did somebody made a mistake? Was this a mistake? Did the police made a mistake? Did the school make a mistake? Maybe God made a mistake. We landed about 6 a.m. that morning, and of course, we had to come face to face with our fate, and we had to go, to identify our son's body. We had a funeral at the school. Over 300 kids, students, and teachers attended. But anyway, that was nearly 14 years ago. And then we had to bring him home after that. Then we had a memorial here in Singapore. So the following days, the ensuing days and weeks and months after his passing was very, very dark time for us indeed. Yeah. But early on, we decided, rather than heaping blame on ourselves, and it's in the TEDx, on ourselves and each other, and just pondering what should have been and what might have been, how we could have done things differently, how regrets, which were very easy to come by, trust me, during those times. We should have done this. We should have called him. We should have, right? A million things we could have and should have. Why didn't we take him home earlier? We decided to face the reality and accept wholeheartedly his decision and our own fate, and to support each other. So two things we decided to do pretty much right after this happened. One is we decided not to blame. not to blame, not to blame ourselves, not to blame each other, not to blame the school. We never said anything, right? They were so gracious, we never said anything to the school. You can imagine a lot of things could come out of that. We decided not to do any of that. And also no regrets. We decided we're not going to regret. We're just going to move forward. And the other thing that helped us was early on, we realized that also perhaps that we are not the only one. So besides no blaming, no regret, and to support and seeking support, that we are not the only one. We are not alone, right? That there are probably many other young people who are suffering and families who are suffering, from depression and similar forms of mental disorders. And we decided we wanted to do something about this. So in our heart, even in the early days, although we didn't know yet at the time what we were going to do, we didn't want what happened to us, the heartbreak of losing one's child, a loved one to a mental illness, to happen to any other parents or any other human being. This is that first glimmer of light. Yeah, it provided a path to help move us forward. So rather than focusing on our own grief and pain and suffering, which were plenty, we decided that we would instead focus on our attention on others' pain and suffering and try to alleviate that. This was the beginning of that healing and transformation. You asked about how we heal. So that was the beginning of our healing and transformation. And that's what our son would have wanted. I talked about this in my TEDx and other interviews, but this was very important. I tell this story a lot, because I know there are many families have gone through, many parents, many mothers and fathers which we've been supporting because of our story. They lost a child, a loved one. There are so many. It's very sad, but we share this story with them. And I think I just also to know that, hey, this too shall pass. The sun will come out again in the morning, right? Tomorrow morning, it will come out. It may take a little while. Yeah. So anyway, so that's our story. That's and then of course that journey continues. 12, 13 years on, we started Over the Rainbow, mental wellness, and I became, I don't know, what do you call it? I became a serial social entrepreneur, right? I was a tech entrepreneur. I became a serial social entrepreneur, and there's no stopping to this. Yeah. So I got into all, I actually, Over the Rainbow is one of our first, but it's our key. It's the main thing that we do, but I also went to a number of other things to help more young people. I got into, mentoring, performing arts. I started performing arts for youth. I got mentoring, Asian Institute mentoring. We're part of the Please Stay movement and a few other ones. So these are, so once the floodgate is open, there's something that happened. And this is the story I want to share. The fact how actually in this case a severely broken heart, but something happened that came out of that, something magical. This from my own personal experience, something magical that came out of that. Something was, when the heart was broken, something else was released. I don't know what you call that. Do you have a name for that? I don't know. Compassion.
Magic.
Compassion. Magic. No, it's the love of our son. Right? And not, not wanting anyone else to have to go through what he went through or what we went through, or when someone else that have, parents or family to go through. And that's been, I think, the driving force behind this.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Yen-Lu. I can imagine having to revisit again as well, just for this podcast must be extremely hard for you. But And I love the fact that you guys were able to seek help from others that had experienced something similar, but that you guys became that beacon of support and hope and inspiration for other parents and others that are going through this. And that is magical, and that is also very beautiful. So amazing work that you and your wife Yen-Ling do.
Yeah, thank you. I think, and this is the way I describe it, is the way we heal ourselves is by healing the world. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
The way we become whole again is by making the world whole again.
Right.
So that healing is not separate from the world's healing. You know, so that became that thing that drive this journey, healing, whatever you call that. Yeah.
And I like to believe where each of us are trying to do here. I mean, Zoala trying to build a tech app for the youth. So what Joanna does with her youth counselling, and what you guys do over at Over the Rainbow, is trying to heal the world and make mental health something that we can talk about, that we can heal from, that we can create the support around us. And yeah, I see that in a way, healing the world, and hopefully we're all moving in the right direction.
Yeah. As I was listening to your story, I think one thing that really struck to me was how you guys took that love that you had for your son and transformed it to bring awareness to the issue. Because a lot of times when parents deal with such hardships, it's all about how do they pick up the pieces that are left. But you guys went above and beyond, and you took that attention, not just focusing on healing yourselves, but also providing some awareness for other parents, some form of help and support for other parents to know that they're also not alone. And then to shed some light into this topic, that it's something that anyone deals with, and it's something that people can overcome. They just need to be aware of it, have a discussion, and see how we can move forward together. So yeah, I thought that was really nice.
Thank you. Absolutely. It takes a village.
Yes.
I believe it takes a village. You know, everyone has a part to play. Even technology has a part to play. I'm very interested. Obviously, I came from the tech world, so I'm very interested in how tech, can play a role. I think it has a role to play for sure. So does human care, right? Like, that's very important. We cannot get away from that at all. But tech definitely has a room to play. So this brings me back to in 2013, we were invited to participate in the MediaCorp documentary episode. So they were doing a series episode called Letters to Heaven. So it's about family dealing with tragedy. So they heard about our story and they want to do an episode on us, our story. So anyway, so as part of that project, I had to write a letter to our son, to our late son. It's
How
called
was
Letters
that?
to Heaven. It was tough. It was tough because it was still quite fresh. It was tough, but my gosh.
I'm just curious, was it you and your wife, or both of you had to do it, or did you just write it yourself?
It came from two of us, but I wrote it. Yeah, basically. Yeah, it came from two of us.
Wow.
I'm curious to ask, how did you and your wife process the death of your son? Did you find that you were able to do it together, or did you have each your own way of processing, internalizing, and overcoming it?
Yeah, I think we have different. We're different. Actually, in those days, she was a lot stronger than I was. You know, I'm the first one to. For months, I was. First of all, I didn't shave for months. Can you imagine? I didn't get a haircut. I didn't shave. I was wearing our son's shirts because I want to read a part of that letter to you. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Yes.
of course. Yes.
Do we have time? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me find that.
Okay.
That I need to find that letter. All right. Okay. Here we go. Our son's name is Lawrence, you may know. But we call him Law, L-A-W, yeah, Law. Okay, so
Law.
dear Law, this is back in 2012, so it's been more than 3 years since you departed. You left so early. Not a day or a moment goes by without the thought of you. We've always been an inseparable family and incredibly good times together. That's why it's been so hard. There's been so much that we miss about you. For Mom, she misses the flowers that you sent her on Mother's Day and the love song that you wrote for her on her birthday. For myself, it's been all the times that two of us spent doing sports together, whether it's on the tennis court, shooting the hoops in the backyard, or playing catch with baseball on the beach. We miss traveling together with you. The three of us have always traveled together as family to all parts of the world. Though you had passed on physically, but your spirit, your kind and gentle soul, your love for life, your sincerity, and your humor, your unconditional love for us, for your friends, for all living things, your connections with so many others, and your uncompromising compassion for all those less fortunate and the downtrodden will endure until the end of time. We know how fortunate we are to have you as our child, although many would say that 26 years is simply too short. But this is a deal we will gladly make with God again if given the opportunity to have the experience of being your parent, even for a short while. To have been born into the same world among potentially infinite worlds, to live in the same time frame, in the eternity of time frames, to be a family as we have is truly a miracle. For you are always will be our child, our friend, our kindred spirit, the light in our heart, forever in our consciousness, one and inseparable.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, so you can imagine, so that's the light, right? That's the basically for me. My wife, we didn't want his passing to be in vain.
Did you find writing that letter helped with the processing? Would you recommend other parents to do something similar?
It actually did. Didn't know at the time, right? Because it was not, this is, only because we've been invited to participate in this episode, yeah. But it did, things like that. It's not one thing particular, but those kind of things along the way that helped, and the healing journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course all the things that we do. I think we're all on the journey home, right? So it's helping each other on the journey home. So we're helping other people on the journey home.
Yeah. Do you have any other message or anything that you'd just like to share with parents or educators or even the teens who are struggling or know someone that might be having a difficult time with mental health challenges?
I get asked to give talks a lot, interviews, and have been through this, not just with our son, but having been through my younger days, been through some mental health challenges. We can talk about, so for messages for parents, there's messages for youth, obviously, but what parents and educators how they can play a role. Yeah, I talked about this. I can talk about it in depth. So anyway, so here are two things that they asked me. So I'll just quote from my interview. Yeah. So this MOE. Yeah, you recently addressed 100 teachers at a secondary school about raising future-ready kids. So what were some of your suggestions? So first, to nurture future-ready learners, we have to bring innovation into the classroom to nurture not just the brain, but the heart. I always begin with the heart. Yeah. And we can begin by inculcating these 5 values, five C's, I call them: compassion, courage, curiosity, commitment, and calm. Yeah. Cultivating our kids' hearts isn't just about telling them what to do and what these values are, but by role modeling them these values and demonstrating kindness in everything that we do. Thomas Edison said that, I'm going a little bit off track here, but success is 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration. You heard this already, I'm sure. This inspiration comes from the heart. So when we try to solve problems or pain points for humanity, the solutions are best when it comes from the heart. That's why educating the heart is so important. And second thing, how else can we help our children to put the heart into what they do? I always quote Steve Jobs, who said that we have to help people look inside and find that inner spark. Most of the time, kids are told what to do by the parents, teachers, society. We must help them discover that thing that they're truly passionate about. Once our kids find it, they'll be on a quest. They'll ask more questions, they'll pursue that passion and find a purpose. Resilience comes from that. That's what entrepreneurs do, right? They find a problem they're obsessed about. They want to solve that problem no matter what, even if there's a setback. Okay?
Nice.
How else do you inculcate resilience? By giving kids enough space to try things. We become impatient, expecting instant results. We need to let them learn delayed gratification. If our kids watch a YouTube video on how to make cookies, encourage them to go out and try it out until they make it. Burn something. Just don't burn down the house.
Yes. Yeah, but that's good
So
because they learn the hardships. It's not so easy.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing is important. So yeah, in earlier media interviews, you mentioned that you were an expert on failure and that you like reading about failures and CVs. I've been an angel investor for 20 years, almost 20 years. Around 90% of startups fail. Almost by definition, the first time you start something, you're going to fail. Except Zoala, of course. In the startup space, people look at that as a badge of honor. Failure is very common. It's not something to be ashamed of. Every failure is an opportunity to learn something and to grow from there. Most learning takes place during failure, not success. So I love to see someone who says on their CV, oh, I did this startup a few years ago, and then I also started another thing. So it's about taking action, not giving up, and constantly learning something. Prevention, preemption, and early intervention. Yeah, that's what Over the Rainbow focuses on. Going back to mental wellness, when does the journey begin? It begins when you decide to take responsibility of and ownership of your own mental health. Right, that's what we do. To get a child to take ownership of their own mental wellness, parents must be role models and take ownership of theirs. Take ownership means doing something proactively for your own well-being, whether it's physical, intellectual, emotional, social, or spiritual. Examples: getting sufficient rest, picking our hobbies that engages our mind, letting go of toxic, negative emotions. And the problem, some of us, we don't pay attention until we in the crisis. What's a key parenting habit that will contribute to a child's success later in life? This is important. Rule number 1, don't be a helicopter parent. Love your child unconditionally. You know this one already, yeah? Love your child unconditionally, but don't do everything for them. Make them contribute around the house. When I was a kid, we always help with housework. We have no maid, no help, nothing. Teach them the law of harvest. Law of harvest. I talked about this a lot. You want something, you got to work for it. Money doesn't fall from trees. Teach them the law of consequences. You do this, this will happen. So often we take away the consequences because we as parents don't have the patience. So as a parent, are you part of the problem? Are you part of the solution? I don't want to sound so tough, but that's very true. So often as parents, we are part of the problem. We're not part of the solution, right? So don't do things for them that they can't do. For stuff that they cannot do yet, guide them from beginning to end so that child feel that they're exercising their passion and their talent. They will feel a sense of satisfaction and pride, and it's the best way to teach your child confidence. Is there a rule number 2? This is very important, okay? That follows rule number 1.
Yeah.
When they fail, be there for them.
Mm.
Tell them it's okay to fail. And teach them how to fail. Get them to learn from the failures and then try again. Fail, learn, repeat. Help them to ask the right questions of themselves. What can I learn from this experience? How can I make this better? Nurture the mindset to focus on the positive rather than the negative. This will help them pull through all kinds of situations in life, not just failures, not just in failure. Always believe in your children. When I look at a young person who's struggling, I tell them, this is all temporary. I don't see you as you are right now. I see you as where you can be. Validate their fundamental value and worth. Remind them that good things take time. Trees take time to grow into good, healthy trees. It takes time to become a good person. It takes time to build a great company. Many people give up too early. They say things are not going well. It's tough, too tough going. I'm done. Research has shown that being able to practice delay gratification and have the perseverance to follow through with things is the most important determinant of success in life. Teach your children to be patient. That was my interview. This is the message I want to spread to everyone, all the parents. I sent it to a lot of people. They said, my gosh, there's no manual on parenting, but every new parent should read this. I said, I want to spread this. I think it's very, very important. Because I'm so passionate about young people.
Yeah, and I think it's especially relevant in the Singapore context, because a lot of parents are very focused on outcomes and they kind of gloss over that whole process of achieving outcomes, whether you hit the mark or you miss the mark. That process of growth and learning is often overshadowed by how well they perceive the child did. So that is a great point that you've made about teaching them what can they learn from the experience, how they can grow, and how it takes time.
And to learn from failure.
Yes.
Yeah. And so often, as you say, so often as parents, we teach our kids how to succeed, right? But much more important, we teach them how to fail, because that's life. That's life. Success comes right every 20 years, but we're gonna fail every day. So we're gonna teach setbacks, right? Not big failures, but setbacks. Yeah, how to overcome those. That's the most important thing we can do. How to teach our kids how to fail, how to overcome setbacks, right? Yet we're focused. You got how to be a successful person, and our kids are not very good at failure, are they?
No.
Hence resilience, hence all of that. So these are all the things. Of course, we've got to help them to find that spark inside, and we don't do that as well. Our education system is not geared to do that. Well, we have a one-size-fits-all education system. I talked about this a lot. If our minister is listening, he will heed this advice as well, right? Chan Chun Sing, well, MOE. He's actually, I actually heard him speak. He's got some good ideas. But anyway, yeah. So I think those are the things. So there you go. That's that's a long-winded answer to your question, but I think those are the things.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Thank you, Yen-Lu.
Yeah. So
pleasure.
Thank you again for taking the time to come down and share with our listeners more about your experience with Over the Rainbow, your own personal healing journey, and the very helpful and insightful advice that you have for our listeners, especially parents and caretakers out there. Like we mentioned before, we will put some links from what we've discussed with Yen-Lu about his previous talks and his previous interviews and such in the description if anyone is interested and keen to hear out more. But anyway, thank you guys for joining on this episode of Zotalks. We hope that listening in provided you a little bit more clarity and understanding about the issue and how to overcome some difficulties when you're facing them, or if someone is facing them.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
again, Yen-Lu, for your
Thank you.
time and for all your sharings. For those listeners, please like, subscribe, check out Over the Rainbow, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Yen-Lu.
Thank you.